Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making another rebuttal video to the user, Ahmed's Qur'an 3. The title of the video is called Qur'an Against Christians Part 14. Now in this video I'm refuting a number of points, so let's see if I can do it in one video here. The first point I would like to refute is that the user, or excuse me, the person who opens, like the narrator, the guy who's pretty much talking with the knowledgeable individual, he makes the point that Khadijah, who was the first wife of the Prophet Muhammad, had a large Christian background. I would like the users collectively to give evidence for this. Khadijah did have a cousin who was Christian, but there's no evidence that I know of that Khadijah had a very large Christian background as they assert, so therefore I'd like to know where the evidence for that is. It says that when Muhammad was in Mecca, he was nice to the Christians and the Jews. His message was accepting to the Christians and the Jews. But then when he was in Medina, he had a hatred. He was a warmonger and things like this against the Christians and the Jews. Again, I'd like to see proof of that because there is a story you can find in Ibn Ishaq where it talks about, and this is a well-known narration, where there were some delegates that came, Christians who came to Medina, and the time came for them to pray, and they needed a place to pray, and so the Prophet Muhammad allowed them to pray in the mosque in Medina. So he was very tolerant to the Christians who lived there, and there were many tribes that were in Medina. A number of them were Christian. He was very tolerant towards them, and there's no evidence that he suddenly switched his attitude to hatred and warmongering. Again, I would like to see evidence for that. Then they say that Muhammad claimed to be the long-awaited Messiah. And I thought this was very interesting, is that the person who made this video asserts that Muhammad taught his companions that he was the long-awaited Messiah of the Jews and the Christians. If you go back and watch this person's video, this is what they say. I'd like to point out that nowhere in Islamic theology is this taught. Nowhere in the Quran does Muhammad say he is the long-awaited Messiah. In fact, it is the only person who is called Messiah in the whole Quran and the Hadith is Jesus, the son of Mary. So that is a complete lie and fabrication uttered by the person who made this video. He then, to back up his claim, he quotes Surah 61, Ayah 6, where Jesus prophesies Muhammad, or a messenger coming after him who would be named Ahmed. That's fine, but that does not mean that Jesus is saying he is the long-awaited Messiah when Jesus himself is the Messiah, and therefore he has already fulfilled that role. Then he says the followers try and twist theology and language to prove that Muhammad was revealed in the Bible and things like this. This is a separate issue which we can talk about at another time. Then the person quotes Surah 2, Ayah 116, talks about the sons of God, and says that that this is a certain aspect of shirk and things like this, and that Muhammad didn't really understand when the Bible uses the term Son of God. I would actually argue that many Christians don't understand the term Son of God. In fact, many Christians only believe that Jesus is the begotten Son of God, or the only Son of God, according to John 3:16. For God loved the world so much, he gave his only Son. Which we know that that's not true, that many people were called sons in the Bible, but I would argue that even amongst the Christians, they don't understand what the term Son of God actually means, and I would let the Jews actually comment on that. Then going with the fact that they say that, according to the Quran, Trinity is shirk. Nowhere is the Trinity, the concept of the Trinity in the Quran, called shirk. Nowhere does God say in the Quran, Trinity is shirk. And then he says that because of this, because the Christians commit shirk, they are subjugated to either converting or dying. Again, that's a very gross overgeneralization of how non-Muslims are treated. It is not simplified as convert or die. And then he says that Christianity is synonymous with paganism. This again shows the author of this video's ignorance. In the Quran, there is a term for pagans. They're called mushkirin. Those are the pagans. Al-Kitab, the people of the Al-Kitab, the people of the book, are a totally separate group of people. The people of the book are the Jews and the Christians. The Mushkirin, the pagans, are a totally separate group of people. They are not synonymous with each other. Then, the person refers to chapter 3, verse 56. And this is a couple times now, this individual in a row abuses the text of the Quran by putting in his own words and fabricating the words that are in here. He quotes this in his video. He says, as to those who reject faith, and he says, the Jews and the Christians, I will punish them with a terrible agony in this world and in the hereafter, nor will they have anyone to help. By the way, Surah 3, Ayah 56 does not mention the Jews and the Christians, and if you look at the context, it's actually referring to to just the people who reject faith, unbelievers, i.e. pagans. There's no mention of Jews and Christians being mentioned in this passage. So you're fabricating, you're putting your own words into the Qur'an. Chapter 3, verse 61, what's interesting is that you again totally add your own words to this verse. You say, if anyone disputes in matters with thee about the divinity of Jesus, then basically get away from them. That is not what the verse says. The verse says, if anyone disputes in this matter with thee, now after full knowledge hath come to thee, say, come, let us gather together our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves. Let us earnestly pray and invoke the curse of Allah on those who lie. A direct reference to this verse is when those same Christian delegates came and were guests in the Prophet's home, and he showed them tolerance, and he did dawah to them. They discussed religious matters and theology. But of course, you don't mention that. You actually put your own words straight into the Quran. Chapter 3, verse 69. Again, I believe you actually add your own words to this one as well. Yeah, you say that it is the wish of the people of the book, but you neglect to mention the fact that it says it is the wish of a section of the people of the book to lead you astray. But they shall lead astray not you, but themselves, and they do not perceive. It is the idea in the Quran that there are people of the book that are very, very good people. There's a verse in the Quran that says that there are good people amongst the people of the book, but many of them are perverted transgressors. So you're adding your own words to the Quran. You've done this with a number of these verses that you put forward. You say chapter 3, verse 118 refers to Jews and pagans. Jews, Christians, and pagans. But again, you are interpolating into the text your own words. It says, O ye believe, take not into your intimacy those outside your ranks. And you say that those are Jews and Christians. And it says, they will fail not to corrupt you. They only desire your ruin. Rank hatred has already appeared from their mouths. With their hearts conceal is far worse. You made plain to you the signs. And if you... to the signs if ye have wisdom. Again, this is talking about the pagans. And this is talking about the hatred that the pagans had towards them, not vice versa. So you say this is a discriminating verse against all non-Muslims. That is not what this verse is referring to. You say that verse 157 about the fact that Jesus did not die on the cross obliterates all of Christianity, and that it destroys all of Christianity. It only destroys all of Christianity if you limit Christianity to just the cross. If you say Christianity is just the cross, then yes, it does obliterate Christianity. There's much more to Christianity and being a Christian than just believing that Jesus died on the cross. Then you say the Jews never accepted Jesus as the Messiah. Really? Because in Matthew, chapter 16, verse 13, verse 14, it says, who do the people say the Son of Man is? And they said, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, others say Jeremiah, and others one of the prophets. He, Jesus, said to them, but who do you say that I am? Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. So you said in your video that also you made a point that, that this idea that the followers of Jesus did not call him the Messiah, but it was the later followers, the Greeks and the Romans. That's not true. According to the Bible itself, his disciples knew and called him the Messiah. You say that the Quran is wrong in the fact that it calls Mary, the mother of Jesus, Maryam, and not Mary. That shows your linguistic ignorance. The fact that Maryam, or Miriam, Hebrew and Arabic, is the correct linguistic terminology. Mary is a Greek or Latinized version of the name. So therefore, you are wrong in asserting that the Quran is wrong in calling her by an Arabic style of her name and not by a Latinized or an English version of the name. You then say that Jesus and Mary did not know a God named Allah, and that the God of Israel has no name. Really? Yeah, he does have a name. In the Hebrew Scriptures, he is called by many names. There are many names for him in the Hebrew Scriptures. He's not a God without any name, as you assert. And Jesus and Mary certainly did say, when Jesus is on the cross, he says, Ella, Ella, labana sabachthani, and he does call him by Allah, and if you look at the root of that word, it is the same. Allah and Allah, El, come from the same root of God in Hebrew and Arabic in the Semitic languages. So therefore, you are mistaken on that as well. So I hope that answers the question. I hope this was an enlightened video. Peace be with you all.